Hello. I'm very glad to be here. I was a big fan of PopTech. I actually knew what PopTech was before you came here. But I want to just tell you a little bit story about how my co-founder and we started Qloud and what has happened in Iceland, in my view, in the last 4 years. I like Eiríkur said, the typical Icelandic entrepreneur. I can't do one thing, so I'm also a singer. And I used to be the CEO of my company for the last 2 years, but I realized that one of the things that we suck at here in Iceland is marketing and actually reaching out globally. And so I hired an Indian CEO to replace me. And I think that's one of the things that you'll find here in Iceland is that we are willing to change without bruising our own egos. But so I've been doing this for a while. I'm 34 years old. This is my third incorporated company. I've done the slow fail. I've never done the fast fail, which doesn't really happen in Iceland because we just keep on trudging and doing the same mistakes over and over again. But in 2008, my first startup was a software company working for mostly government agencies. When the crash happened, the projects ran out. Basically, the government, the municipalities we were working for, they stopped all projects. And because of the brain drain of the banks sucking up all the really good talent in IT, had forced us to set up an office in Lithuania, of all places, a great place, by the way. We had to shut down that office because most of our income was in Icelandic krona that unfortunately devalued 100% as well. So my co-founder and I, Tryggvi Lárusson, I don't know if he's in here, but we really started to rethink things, and a lot of people did that. A lot of people went back to thinking about the basics. Let's focus on fishing. Let's build more aluminium smelters. And we really didn't want to do that. We wanted to make something new out of Iceland. And we noticed that within our industry of IT and software, there was a new revolution going on. It has been talked about as the new industrial revolution, and it's called cloud computing. And all of you in here are using some sort of cloud computing, whether you know it or not. Every time you go on Facebook, you're doing cloud computing. Every time you post an image somewhere or store a backup online, you're doing cloud computing. And this concept of actually sharing resources is maybe not a new concept, but at the level that we're doing it today, we're building these huge data centers, and we're sharing that data center with thousands and thousands of people. And what came out of that was that we changed the economics of information technology. So suddenly, and this started really in 2006 with Amazon, suddenly it became really cheap to start a company that was based on software, for example, because you could only pay for what you use. And these were called public compute clouds, and Qloud is a public compute cloud. And with this change of economics, what happened really was that we saw that this was much more efficient. And when you have something more efficient, actually, Jevons paradox says that people use more of it. And exactly like Andre was saying, when it becomes really cheap, you just want to use more and more and more. And it doesn't suffice just to have one thing, you want more. And this is just human nature, I think. But the good thing about cloud computing is that it kind of consolidates the problem of storing everything in the same place instead of distributing everywhere. And it moves the power issue, the energy that you need to store stuff into the data centers. And it's cheap and it's really scalable. So what actually pushed this even further was the financial crisis because of the economics. Now, you couldn't get any loans for equipment after the financial crisis. And even big companies were struggling to just buy hardware to stock their IT departments. And the biggest driver for cloud computing today are mobile phones. So everybody's taking like thousands and thousands of pictures each year. And where do you put those? Well, you have to put them online if you want to have them safe. So I don't see this trend, going down at all. So we need to store these thousands and thousands of images. So just for PopTech, I made a new invention. This is a camera that will not take pictures of anything that's been taken before. So this might be the solution to this enormous problem with data storage, but I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to do that. But the thing is, like, when we started looking at this industry, we thought, we definitely want to do cloud computing. Like we've been doing that similar stuff for years. We want to do this, and the infrastructure in Iceland is great. Actually, in 2008, we finally got the new submarine cable that tripled the bandwidth capacity to Iceland. And so the infrastructure was there. But what surprised us was when we looked into this industry is that it was already producing 2% of global emissions back in 2007. That's equal to the aviation industry of the globe. So this is not like a small thing that we're looking at here. And the worst thing about this industry is that it's growing really at exponential scale. It might be growing at a super exponential scale, but at least we know it's growing exponentially. And that means that this industry might go to 4% of global emissions in the next 8 years. And this is primarily being driven by cloud computing, because cloud computing is, we're building these data centers everywhere, and we're connecting them to the cheapest thing we can get, which is the dirty energy. And all of this is, creating this huge problem. And it's not far-fetched to imagine that in 30, 40 years, 50% of our energy will be spent on IT. It's not possible to do that, but that's basically the need that we're going to see. So we saw that the solution to this, partly at least, to fight the climate change part was, why don't we hack the competencies of Iceland and leverage that to both create a new industry in Iceland that's not about aluminum smelters, but about software and services that we can build in Icelandic data centers and really take out this carbon emissions that you're seeing all over the world. And we had that kind of epiphany in 2009 when, like 6 months after the crisis and everything was going pretty badly in our other company. And so out of that simple idea, we started building a company. And we managed to get some investors. This is the network of Iceland. It's fairly good. Hopefully next year we'll get a direct connection to New York, which will really make Iceland a hub between our two continents. But and when we came out with this in 2010, we really didn't have anything. Like we had this idea of doing this stuff, and 2 years later we're still in beta. We're gonna go public with this company or the service in the next couple of months, but we had the audacity to call it the world's first truly green public compute cloud. And we poke fun at the giants in the industry because we're small, I would say. So, but during all of this journey, there have been many, many changes in Iceland. And from my perspective, the biggest change has been in the mentality of the startup community. We really didn't have a startup community before the crash. Like we had startups, but they weren't networking. They weren't getting funded. They didn't help each other out. It was really cutthroat. And the only thing a company would do here in Iceland would be pretty much to slow fail. Like there are not many big companies here. There are lots of small companies, and really most of them are slow failing. So, but this changed everything, the crash, because education now is flourishing in the entrepreneurial space. And the biggest change in the mindset of the country is that entrepreneur isn't a bad word. It isn't a curse word anymore, word that it used to be in Iceland. And we have, I think, as a collective, decided to put our bet on the creative industry. And actually tourism as well. You could maybe call that creative industry to market something like, you know, bathing in the freezing sea and something that some people might not think that's pleasant. So if you connect that to resilience, I think that, like, I thought about this. There are 3 points of resilience that I see that are obvious and apply anywhere in the world. First of all, it's actually seeing an opportunity despite or because there's a challenge, an extreme uncertainty in your local community. And the second part is just acting on that opportunity, like just doing it. That's, I don't know, some people call it the Icelandic way. I just think it's the entrepreneurial way. You just have to do it. And even though there are big incumbents and lots of people that want you to fail, I mean, if you don't try, then, you know, who's going to try for you? And being creative and doing a lot with what you got. But so basically that's a startup. So really Iceland is just a startup now. And really I truly feel that it's a startup. And the biggest change, which I think has happened in this country now, that will make it succeed finally in doing something else than smelters and fishing, is that now we're finally collaborating. We're networking. We're reaching out globally to ask others to help us as well. And I think that's my key message for everybody here, is that collaborating is the key to the success that we will hopefully have and hopefully you will have as well. Thank you.